engage with community leaders, residents, and advocates to talk about pressing issues facing families and children in New York City and the steps that we can each take as individuals and as a collective to ensure the health and well-being of our communities. At Power of Two, we partner with families to help them heal from trauma, to promote healthier interpersonal interactions between young children and their parents, and support communities as they harness their power and build resilience. We know that for families to thrive, they also need access to quality education, housing, jobs, and healthcare. Healthcare in low-income communities tends to be understaffed, underfunded, and under-resourced. And as Dr. King once said, of all of the forms of inequality, injustice in health is the most shocking and the most inhumane. As many of us know, community residents face greater obstacles in accessing quality healthcare. Some of the reasons are because of an inability to pay for services, language or communication barriers, difficulties in physically accessing the services, or if they do have access, the quality of the services is actually quite questionable. Our guest today is Timothy Sutton, a fellow Brooklynite with over 30 years of experience as a physician assistant and medical director that has worked on improving the health and well-being of others and wants to address the barriers to quality health in our hometown of Brownsville. Tim is the co-founder, owner, and medical director of Brownsville's WalkIn Clinic, which opened this fall to not only make COVID testing easily accessible to our residents, but to also address issues related to diabetes, hypertension, obesity, cancer, and mental illness. I am incredibly excited to have Tim here with us today. Tim, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So I would like to start us off by asking, what is your personal connection to the work that you are doing with the WalkIn Clinic?
I've been dealing in healthcare for quite some time, from being a home health aide to nursing assistant to EMT, working for New York City EMS in the emergency rooms. This is just something that I've always had a desire to do. So I don't know how else to say it. It's just something that it's always been in me to do.
You've been a helper all your life.
Pretty much, pretty much.
Wonderful, thank you. So Tim, can you share with us, as someone who has been in the medical field, the health field for so long, for decades, can you tell us a little bit about what your specific thoughts are on how the COVID pandemic has affected our communities?
Wow, you got a couple of weeks? It's plenty. For a long time, we've been aware that communities of color didn't fare as well medically as other communities. And COVID just exposed it even more. We have the highest rates of obesity and high blood pressure and diabetes. I mean, there are other groups that live in our society who suffer from these things, but they seem to find our community a little bit more. Mm-hmm. So when COVID came, it just exposed it that much more, how something as simple as a virus can be so deadly to people who think they're relatively healthy. But overall, because nothing is hurting or they don't see anything wrong, they think they're okay. And COVID has exposed a lot of things to us in all communities, not just in the community of color, but especially in the community of color. And that's what I felt we needed to address.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you for that. You're absolutely right. I feel like, when I've grown up, there were two voices in my home. There was my mother's voice, who's like, the doctor knows everything. He's all knowing. So whatever happens, go to the doctor and figure it out. But back then, the way medicine was practiced is just like, here's a pill, it'll go away, but then something else, would flare up. And then my father, who was on the opposite side of my mom, who was just like, no, it's just a cough, don't worry about it, it'll go away. And then the next thing you know, it's like you have pneumonia. So kind of like balancing those things out. But you're absolutely right. It's like, really focusing on health and understanding, the importance of health, and understanding that health issues manifest themselves in a variety of different ways for our communities, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So can you talk a little bit about those manifestations specifically in our communities of color?
Oh, specifically in our community. Oh, very easy to speak on. In recent years, a lot of studies have shown that one of the main reasons that people carry illness and get sick easier is because of the levels of stress that they have to deal with. Anyone who's an asthmatic knows that when they take their prednisone, their sugar goes up, they're always hungry, things like that happen in the body naturally when we're under stress, right? So if you can imagine taking prednisone every day, what that would do to your body. Prednisone is like an amazing drug. It's a catch-22. It will save your life and make you miserable all at the same time. And that's kind of what our community goes through on a daily basis, because we're always under a constant stress. Even if you're not a guy out in the street committing crime, you're under stress just by the fact that you wear this black suit every day. From walking to the subway, am I going to get stopped by the police because I match a description? Or am I going to get robbed by a guy who's doing worse than me who can't find a job? So you're constantly under stress. If you're a black mother, you worry about your young black sons, you worried about your young black daughters, you worried about educating your kids. And now during this COVID time, we worried about something as simple as feeding our children. Mm-hmm. So the community is constantly under stress. How do you get better if you can't ever put down that stress somehow in some way? And that's part of what we are trying to bring to the community too, is how to manage their stress. It is something that they can take control of, have control of, and help themselves. And it doesn't take a prescription. It doesn't take a chemical formulation. It takes knowing how to go within yourself and bring your stress levels down. That in itself helps with illness. But education overall is something that we need in our community. But stress is one of the number one killers in our community. And all those other things follow: diabetes, high blood pressure, and all
That's
those.
right. That's right. Yeah. I mean, as you know, you're familiar with our work, but one of the things that we often talk about is the impact that toxic stress has on families, right? How right. It impacts the parent, how it impacts, the caregiver, and how that tends to transition from one generation to another, right? And because it embeds itself in your biology. And so us as adults, if we learn how to manage that stress, right, in a healthy way, then the chances of us actually passing that down to the next generation are diminished, right? They decrease. And so I really do appreciate that, your walk-in clinic is taking this very holistic approach to addressing, health in our community. So thank you for that. I am really curious also about the services that you offer. Like, you're really focusing on, very specific services, right? So obviously you're doing COVID testing, but you're also, as I mentioned before, looking at diabetes and hypertension and obesity and cancer and mental illness. Can you talk a little bit about why, right? So you gave me a little bit of that in your current response, but can you expand a little bit more on why you've made this intentional choice on these particular issues?
Yeah, because I think those are the issues that we kind of glaze over in medicine. We talk about prevention, we talk about diet, we talk about stress management, but we're not teaching people these things. We're not showing them how to achieve these things. When people come into the facility for care, they will follow your instructions. So if you say, here, take this pill twice a day, and eat strawberries before bed, they'll do it, right? So it is incumbent upon us to teach properly, to educate properly, to address people's problems accordingly. Everybody's issue is not the same. So if you have someone who can show you how to work through issues and problem solving, life becomes easier. It's just like when you have kids who are always fighting, you always, you know, you look for resolutions, you know, you teach the kids how to find a resolution. And those are things that we have to do just with ourselves. Find a resolution in yourself to fix something that is wrong. And addressing high blood pressure and diabetes, we know, like I said earlier, stress is a big cause of, or a help in a lot of illness. With diabetes, stress also is an issue, but also how we eat is an issue. We hear eat healthy, eat healthy, eat healthy, but what's eating healthy? Is if I eat meat, is that eating healthy? If I take meat out and eat everything else, is that eating healthy? You know, some people take not eating meat means I just don't eat meat and I can eat everything else. But I know people who are vegetarians who are out of shape and ill. So meat in itself is not it. How we eat, when we eat, why we eat, how much we eat, all of those things are important. We don't teach that. We live in a big gulp society where you can go somewhere and get a 64 ounce of soda for one person. Why is it necessary? You know, everything is bigger and better. We have to change our thought process. If something is $1.99 and you get a whole meal, what are you actually eating? Right? So you're not hungry, you're full, but isn't anything in there that is going to be nutritious to your body so that you can live, so that you can build and rebuild? And, you know, the Bible tells us that the body is made to live forever. It can regenerate. Science has proven that, right? But you got to put the right things in. You don't put water in your gas tank. You put gas in your gas tank. And we're just taking and putting anything in our bodies. We don't manage our lifestyles so that we're living comfortably and we're always under constant threat of stress. And that's because of so many other different reasons. I mean, we can talk for years about why our community stays under stress and why they're sick and why they don't eat right, you know, but we're always talking about it. And we felt when we opened the walk-in clinic, it was enough about talking about it. And now it's time to start doing something.
That's right. That's right. No, and I appreciate that because, you know, I think that in Brownsville in particular, we have tried to make that shift to make, you know, produce available, to make vegetables available, but it's hard. It's incredibly challenging when there's a lack of investment, right? And when there's a lack of investment, you can't provide all of the resources that you would ordinarily want to a lot more families so that they can develop new habits, right? And the only way to develop new habits is if you practice. And if you continue to do. And so that's very challenging to do when you don't necessarily have access to those things. You know, in speaking about that, you mentioned something or alluded to something that I thought was really interesting. And that is that we're all different, right? And we all have very different health needs. And so I wanted to talk with you about, you know, your specific thoughts on the one-size-fits-all healthcare model that exists in our country. Can you talk to that a little bit?
Yeah, that's interesting. One size fits all. We know that that's so not true. It's so not true. You can take 10 guys, they all have high blood pressure, and what makes their pressure high and what brings their pressure down, and, you know, and get 10 different care plans. That is something that we do have here in our country, in our society, is a cookie cutter healthcare. If you don't meet this standard, we can't look at that, especially if you have certain types of insurance. If you have a free insurance, it is so much harder to get certain tests done because you got to be at a bad place before we can say, okay, let's look. And prevention is key, but we talk prevention, but we don't practice prevention. We practice treatment, we don't practice prevention. And I felt like I've been doing this a long time. And I'm not saying that I have not been part of the problem, because I have been. I've been trained by this system to work in this way. But as you move forward and you grow and you educate yourself more and you learn more things, you realize there's much more that we can do. And sometimes doing more is giving less. And every time we turn around, there's a new medication for something, right? Everybody with depression can't take one pill. That's why there's 30,000 different pills. That's why the care for that person with depression has to be personalized to that person, because what's depressing them may not be what's depressing that guy across the street. And that one pill may not address that problem that's causing that depression. So everything has to become more personalized, you know, and we're doing that now. You have DNA testing that tells you what kind of exercise you should do and what kind of foods you can eat, but who can afford that? right? But again, you give yourself an education on how to eat, when to eat, why you eat, what you can take and not take to make things better, how to manage your stress. Then you're not worried about all of the different things because you are generally taking care of you. You are managing you. And that's what we don't teach in our society. We don't manage ourselves. We let other people manage us. The doctor manages us, our boss manages us, the restaurants, McDonald's manages us because they throw those fantastic, and I don't mean to point McDonald's out specifically, but fast food restaurants, they throw out these fabulous commercials and people go, oh yeah, I want to try that. And so everything is guiding our hand in how we do ourselves other than ourselves. Mm-hmm. Right? And that's why I think when we address issues in our community, what medicines they take and what foods they eat are important, but how they think. We have to change minds. In order to change minds, we have to educate those minds. And I'm not talking about people becoming scholars. I'm talking about basic how to eat things. A lot of studies and a lot of people say that the food triangle was upside down when they started promoting it in the 70s, and now they're flipping it around. Even if you agree or disagree, the people have to have that information. So again, they're making an informed choice. We don't have informed patients. We don't have informed patients. Everybody walks around with a computer in their hand. It's called a cell phone, and you can look up anything you want on that cell phone. You can educate yourself on so many different things, but we educate ourselves on Instagram and Facebook, and those things have its place, but when you want to know which vitamin is going to be best to help you with your energy, you can look that up on the phone, right? You don't have to wait for that monthly appointment with a provider in order to find that out. So, changing people's mind, pushing self-education. If you can't educate yourself, if you need me to help you, come on into WalkIn Clinic. We got everything you need. We know how to use the computer just like everybody else. So you can come here and get a pill for your high blood pressure or some information on how your multivitamin works in your cells. These are things that people need to know because they're not making informed decisions. TV commercials are promoting medicines and this, that, and the next. How am I watching a TV commercial that's telling me, tell your doctor this, that, and that? If I'm asking my doctor or my provider for a particular medication, they should know about that medication before they give it to me. They should be asking me that question.
That's right. Yeah. So, we all are responsible in taking care of our health, right? So not necessarily relying on our provider, right? But engaging our providers in a conversation about a specific health plan designed, tailored for who we are, and what is happening in our body is definitely, it's definitely key. And I certainly have learned that. To ask very pointed questions about the why. Why do you want me to take this? What can I do actually to preclude me from taking this? Is there anything else I need to change related to my diet? Maybe I need to exercise? Maybe I need to stay away from certain things, right? So really having a conversation and not necessarily accepting that a pill is the answer, right? Yeah, so information is definitely important, and access to that information, right? So we need to make sure that information is accessible to our communities as well.
Yeah. And we find that the information is accessible, but we get overburdened by so much stimuli from so many different places, and again, bringing it back to, we have to make that personal choice to say, okay, all right, I got to slow down a little bit. Let me get some more information. And I encourage patients all the time, ask questions. I don't know how many times in the emergency room or in the urgent care, I've asked the patient, why did the doctor give you this medication? They go, I don't know. Right. What do you mean you don't know? You didn't ask him why? Mm-hmm. And you get that a lot. I don't know. Why are you taking this pill? Because the doctor told me to. Okay. And we have to get away from that mentality of the doctor told me to. We have to question things. I tell patients, question me. Ask me. If I'm offering you something, ask me, why am I offering? Is it going to be good for you? Is there an alternative? That's what I think we need to have more in medicine, to alternatives. And we just don't. Sometimes you go and all you can get is this.
Right. Right. But I know that one of your philosophies, is this holistic approach, right? So it's integrated medicine, right? So yes, there are certain things that you're saying that individuals are going to need help with chemically, but then there are other things that they don't. How did you arrive at this philosophy, right? Having grown up, so to speak, in the system, right, in our current health system, how did you arrive at this philosophy of a holistic approach to medicine?
Actually, it was a couple of things. One, I had gotten sick. I was sick. Several years back, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, diabetes, never taking regular medications before. I grew up a kid with asthma. Asthma hadn't bothered me in years. I found myself getting older, overweight, and I was seeing my provider. I mean, I was working with cats. I was seeing a provider. They were giving me medications. I was trying to change my diet, and nothing was getting better for me, right? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. But I'm going to take this medicine. I'm somebody who hates to take pills. I hate medicine, right? Doing what I do, I hate to take medicine myself. But I took the blood pressure medication. I took the diabetes medication. I was stable, but I wasn't better, right? I wanted better. I didn't just want to be able to maintain a 7.2 hemoglobin A1C. I wanted my hemoglobin A1C to be normal. I wanted my weight to be normal. I wanted my feet to feel normal. I didn't want to feel my legs swelling anymore. And so I started researching and I started doing other things. And yes, I continued to take my blood pressure medication and my diabetes medication, but I changed other things in my life. How I eat, when I eat, why I eat. I changed those things. I started finding other things to help bring my stress levels down. I stopped watching the news 24/7. I was a CNN junkie, you know, and you watch the news and you get wrapped up in everything that's going on in the world. And I haven't stopped yet for a moment to think about what's going on with me. What do I need to do to make my pressure better, make my sugar better? And when I did those things, I lost 83 pounds. I'm no longer on diabetic medications. I still take high blood pressure medications, but my pressure is coming down and I'm taking less medications. So even if I can't get patients off of all their medications, if we get them into a proper lifestyle that works for them, whether it's vegan or pescatarian or intermittent fasting, whatever it is there's no one formula that's going to work for everyone. So when you give that education, they might try intermittent fasting and go, nah, that's not for me. Or they might become a vegetarian and go, you know what, this is perfect. So when you give people those choices and those options, how their healthcare works and how they get better and how they progress in their care changes. Right. But we're constantly doing the same thing. So I think we should have the opportunity to offer our Western medicine or all the things that we learned in science. Those things, they hold their place in our society. But things like sitting down and meditating and maybe drinking a chamomile tea versus taking an antidepressive pill, or, you know, there are other things that people may want to do to get themselves better other than just taking a pill.
That's right. That's right. There are some.
Right. It doesn't get rid of the pill, but it working together, you're talking about less side effects from medications, better outcomes. It's a balance. It's a balance.
That's right. Yeah, my son had a stomach ache the other day, and you know, I looked at the medicine cabinet and we had some Mylanta, and I was just like, I remember something that my mom used to give me when I was a kid, and it was oregano tea. It smelled horrible, It tasted horrible, but you know what? It did the trick. And so I said, okay, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna, you know, close your nose, I'm gonna pinch your nose, and you're gonna drink it. And I'm like, and trust me, it's gonna work. And it worked, and he was fine. And I was like, so see, there are alternatives. We just have to remember to tap into, you know,
Absolutely. I mean, what did our great grandmothers do back in the days? You know, there wasn't baby formula, babies lived, right? There wasn't a ton load of vaccines that babies had to get before they were 2-year-old. People lived. I mean, science has pushed the envelope for the human being. We can live much more comfortably on this planet, and we can fight a lot of diseases off due to the science and the things that we've learned in science. But there are things that, you know, science has to be built on nature. That's just my opinion. Science is built on nature. And, you know, before 1913, most medications, 99.9% of medications were holistic. They were herbal, right? Not until 1913 when Rockefeller found out that we can make medications from petroleum-based products that we were we were using herbal formulations and holistic medications up until close to the end of the first 2 decades of the 20th century. And then Congress changed their mind because they were told that petroleum-based medications are better. So yes, science has given us some medications that are phenomenal. You know, we've done amazing things. We've gotten rid of polio, you know.
That's right.
We've gotten the AIDS pandemic under control. Now we got COVID. We got to worry about this one. But I'm sure that science will help us get this under control as well. But there are things that we can do at home outside of science that will help us be able to fight and maybe not need to take all of those other medications. It's great to have them if we need them, right? Better to have and not need than need and not have. But we should also offer people alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes people will take alternatives. And if the alternative doesn't work, then you go with something else. But there has to be choice. If you only stick with Western-based medicine and that doesn't work, where do you go?
That's right. No, exactly. So, you know, one of the things that I also wanted to make sure that I asked you, I know, you know, the why you started this clinic. But I really want you to share it with our listeners, right? What was the impetus for you opening up the walk-in clinic in Brownsville?
Yeah, what I had found was when COVID first came into play and we went on lockdown, I had a telemedicine practice for about 2-3 years, and I used it here and there. I used it mostly with folks who worked, you know, in the city agencies and stuff that I would take care of. I would use it for that. But then I found when COVID came, I was getting hit on my telemedicine a lot. And I was seeing a lot of people saying, you know, I'm trying to get my medication, but my doctor's office is closed and they're not telling me when they're coming in. And I have no way to get in contact with people. So I found that I was coming across people whose primary care doctors just vanished on them. And I'm like, what do you mean you can't get it? There's no forwarding, nothing. And, you know, I had folks calling me, I'm closing my practice, I'm not going back, asking me if I wanted to buy. And that kind of disturbed me because in a community where the people are poor, but they do have health care and they frequent your facilities and you've lived, you've earned in this community. There should be, I think there should have been more of a connection to the community to when the stuff so-called hit the fan, that you didn't run for cover, that you didn't throw up a shield and try to help protect some of the people in the community. From pain management to high blood pressure medications to diabetes medications, I was getting calls for all of that because people's primary doctors were vanishing on them. And I was like, we can't allow that. We can't allow that. If you are from this community and you work in this community, you can't get away with being slack in this community because the people in the community are going to come to you and go, how are you from this community, in this community, and you're doing this? I can't walk away from the community because even if I don't open the office, my children go shopping on Pickens Avenue. I might be with them on Pickens Avenue. Somebody's going to see me. You know, I worked in the Brookdale University Hospital for 18 years. People know me. They're going to see my face and go, this is the guy who's not doing the right thing by us. I feel that in our community, we are not holding people responsible for doing what they need to do. And I'm talking about healthcare providers, specifically, and me being included as one of those providers. I do the same thing that everybody else was doing. I'm not excluding myself, but I've come to the conclusion that we have to do something different now. We have to train the people better. We have to be here for them. They have to regain a trust in us. You know, everybody's got health insurance and there are medical offices all over the place and people are still sick. Then that means we're doing something wrong, right? And we're doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome. You know, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and getting the same outcome, but still doing it, looking for something different. Right. So now, instead of just looking for something different, I'm doing something different. And I'm thinking, I feel that the outcome is going to be better. And then when I get that better outcome, then I'm going to do something different from that to make that outcome even better. So it's a constant changing and building and growing. This is just a beginning point, you know, for us, saying, I got to change people's mind and try to teach them, you know, all the things that they can do to help take care of themselves and make themselves better, and depend on me and other people like me even less. But that's going to take time, because we're working against a system that's been educating people to think a certain way for hundreds and hundreds of years. And we're going to have people who go, you know, I can see that. And we're going to have people go, no, I'm going to do exactly what the doctor told me to do. And I'm not mad at them, but it's still to be there and to guide them. It's to give guidance. And I don't think that, you know, they get instructions, not guidance. Take this pill, 1 tablet 3 times a day. That's an instruction, but who's giving them the guidance?
That's right. Who's telling them the why and the how, and, you know, what can happen as a result. Exactly. So, you know, I'm going to pull this just a little personally. I'm going to pull this back a little bit, because I want to ask you a question about, you know, your positionality, like how do you present yourself, right? I present myself as an, you know, Afro-Latina woman, right? You know, how do you identify?
I identify as a Black man.
Okay, so there we go. So as a Black man, you know, was being a Black-owned business a conscious decision for you in order to address the documented inequities in healthcare? Not only in healthcare, but also in pain management, right? That people of color receive from, let's say, their white medical providers.
Yeah. Interesting.
I told you it was gonna go there. Yeah, it's gonna go there.
I just feel that we could have done things a little better. We can do things a little better. On a personal level, I felt that saying that the business was Black owned and operated was important at this time. It wasn't the first thing on my mind. It was my kids. My kids were saying, Daddy, we have to tell people that this is Black owned and operated. I work from a position of, I'll help anybody who comes for help, right? But I sat down and I talked to my daughters. My daughter's a very conscientious young lady. And after speaking to her, it made sense. We're in a time where 2020 is a pivotal year, and it's going to change. It's a time of change. And I want people to build up, especially in our community. I want better healthcare, but I also want more Black business. I also want to see the dollar in this community, that when a dollar is brought into this community, that it stays in this community more than 6 hours. You know, in other communities, more affluent communities in this city, that $1 will stay in that community for 16 days. But in Brownsville, when somebody goes to the bank and they take money out and they go to that store, that money doesn't stay in that community, in this community, because that money that business is run by someone who's not from this community, just doing business in this community, and they take those dollars from this community to their community. Right? So yeah, it was important to say Black owned and operated. And not just that it was Black owned and operated, but it's Black owned, operated, we're responsible, and we're doing the right thing. I don't think you should frequent or deal with an organization or business because they're Black owned if they're not doing what you need to have them do and doing it in the way that it needs to be done. And so I didn't want to just put up Black owned and operated just to say that we Black owned to draw all the Black people to us. I wanted to be Black owned and operated in doing the right thing by the Black people in the Black community. And like I said, I'll help anyway. I'll take care of anyone. When I say Black, I mean everybody in this community. I don't separate myself as a Latino or a Negro or a Caucasian. People, you know, I'm obviously Black, right? All those other things don't even make a difference outwardly. You know, what you do with them personally is one thing, but in today's time, saying that you're Black owned and operating and showing Black excellence is what is called for in today's time. We don't have to keep looking for heroes in the past. We have everyday heroes right now. We have fathers who get up and go to work every day and take care of their children. They have to be known as heroes. We can't have one hero in our community. We have to have multiple heroes, because heroes in our community don't survive if there's only one.
That's right.
And saying pushing Black and Black owned is not just to push it as a Black organization, but to push it as a Black organization that's here to care for the people and that's coming with excellence. And that's what, when I see Black owned, I want it to mean excellence. I don't just want it to mean that it's owned by somebody who is Black. I want it to mean excellence. And that's what Black owned here means.
That's right. No, thank you for that, Tim. That is so important, right? That we're able to build, that we're able to build businesses, organizations that are not only are equipped with the lens of equity, right? So we're willing to help everyone, but understand that we have to do it in a way that in which there's quality, right? That there's caring, there's intentionality in that practice, in that engagement, in that relationship, right? Because our community has been without for a very long time. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, yeah, sure, there are services, but are they quality services? And that's what our community needs. It's quality services, quality engagement, quality health, quality education, housing, everything. We're very deserving of that. And so, it's wonderful that that is so central to you and to the work that you're doing at the clinic.
Oh, thank you. I hope, let me rephrase that. We're here to do and take care of the community, and we're going to do that. I'm not going to say that I hope we do that, because I'm very sure that the community will be pleased with the efforts that we're putting in here to bring good healthcare, education, knowledge, and peace of mind to the Brownsville community. That we're starting here in Brownsville now, but this is something that we're going to take out into the general community and to the underserved and minority communities in this entire city.
That's right.
But we're definitely starting here in Brownsville. And you're right, we deserve to get some equity in our healthcare. We need some equity in our financial status in society. We need to teach our children that some of the greatest inventions in the world, things that people use every day, like the cell phone, the stoplight, the refrigerator, the air conditioning, were things that were created by Black folks. When you have a certain level of knowledge and understanding, no one can make you seem or feel like you're less than. If that poor guy who was born a slave can figure out how to do almost several hundred things with a peanut, why can't you figure out how to do one thing? It's very possible. And we have to give our children those examples, and they don't have to be somebody in a history book. It can be somebody right in their house, like their dad or their mom or their grandmother or their grandfather, who worked hard and didn't have education, but we grew up in a house, and we ate a meal, and we went to church, and we did all of these things. This is something that somebody did from what we consider nothing, but they took what they had and made it something. And that's what we have to start getting back to in the Black community. We have to stop looking outside for help and for building and for love, and we have to come back to ourselves and do that. And then we can go back out there and be comfortable and happy with everybody else in society, but we have to start recognizing ourselves, the power in us, the things that we do, what we can do for ourselves and for each other. And when we start doing for ourselves and for each other, everyone else will pay attention to that. But it's hard to scream Black Lives Matter when other things are going on in the Black community. Not that those things are the Black community's fault, but we have to start with fixing something somewhere. And I think the best place to start is with ourselves.
That's right. That's right. There's a lot of power in healing yourself, right? From that, you learn, you build confidence, and then your view of the world, your perspective changes. And with that renewed perspective, everything is possible. So, I would be remiss if I didn't ask you this question about the vaccine. There are some questions that are coming in, and some folks do have, questions about it. So I'm gonna bring it up. I know it's a hot topic. Everyone's talking about it, but, as both of us are from, this community, right? And we know the history of government abuse toward our communities of color.
Right.
And so as a person who has been involved in medicine and the healthcare system for decades, what are your thoughts on the COVID vaccines?
I think it's a nice scientific breakthrough that they can find something that would address this pandemic that we're dealing with right now. But we also know that in the Black community, there's a large distrust of these type of things, from all of the unofficial, official experimentation that has happened in the Black community, Tuskegee being one of the things that most people talk about. So it's going to be tough to convince a lot of people of color that this is a good thing for them. And then there's going to be a lot of folks who you don't have to convince at all. So again, it comes right back down to giving the people the right tools in order to make a proper decision, proper messaging, proper information, give them the pros and the cons, give them all of the pros and the cons. You know, I don't want people to feel like this is just a sales pitch in this community or any community for this virus, for this vaccine. But I think that everyone should get all of the information so that they can make conscious decisions on what they do and don't do. Don't just take it, say, no, I ain't taking it because it's an emotional thing. You know, I don't trust them. It's okay not to trust, but in order to gain trust, you have to do what? You must investigate. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the information. We're going to share that information with the community. If we get the opportunity to get the vaccine and distribute it to persons who want it in this community, we would more than happily do that. But we are definitely going to educate the people on this vaccine and other vaccines so that they can make conscious choices. But that does not say you must still wear your mask, you must wash your hands. The vaccine is something that's going to help, but it's not the cure-all, right? So we're still promoting mask wearing, hand washing, and we're educating people on vaccines, and hopefully we'll educate people so that they will make the right choices for them.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, Tim, for that. I think one of the things that is incredibly important is the messaging, as you said, and the information sharing, because there have been of our very long history, right, with research and what it means, and so making sure that the leaders who are currently in the health field really take time to encourage community-based organizations and encourage practitioners as yourself to be part of the conversation of what kind of messaging is necessary, what kind of information is necessary for people to make their own informed decisions about what's best for them and their families. So you're absolutely right. We only have a couple of more minutes, and so I want to make sure that I give you an opportunity to basically share, what is your call to action for listeners today? I know many are very interested, many are incredibly interested in knowing where are you located exactly. So I'll let you share where you are so that people know where to find you. And also give us your call to action for those of us that are tuning in today.
Well, right now, my immediate call for action would, for right now, is for people to be safe during the holiday season, during the pandemic season. I know it feels like, they're telling me what to do. I can't go nowhere. I can't do this. I can't do that. I got to wear this daggone mask. I got to keep washing my hands. I can't, we're not interacting with each other the way we normally interact with each other. And you have people screaming, oh, this is foolishness. The virus can't kill you. Listen, again, education is important. Educate yourselves. And if you're not sure, just be safe. You can't go wrong by being safe. Right now, if you think wearing a mask can protect your grandmother or your mother, my mother's in her 70s. I want to protect my mother, so I wear a mask. Right? So you don't have to believe that the virus is deadly or it's around or it's going to affect you or not, but think about that other person. This is the time you want to think about your mom, your grandmother, so put the mask on, educate themselves, and change one thing about yourself this week. One thing. After Christmas, change one thing that you eat after Christmas. Because Christmas, the turkey, the ham.
That's right. I want my pernil.
Pernil, that's right. Come on, stop playing. You gotta be.
Mi coquito, what?
And I say, we change things now, but change just one thing. Just change one thing the day after Christmas and see how life changes for you.
That's right.
And listen, we are talking positively, we moving positive energy, we're doing great health care at the WalkIn Clinic. We're located at 400 Rockaway Avenue in Brooklyn. We're between Pickens and East New York Avenue. Don't get nervous. The community is fantastic. And I also want to say that I've been proud of the Brownsville community, because since the pandemic started, I've been over here working and taking care of people, and people are washing their hands, and people are wearing masks, and they're even getting stylish with it, you know? And so I sit back and I smile at myself and I applaud, because they're taking that power into their own hands. I'm going to wear this mask. If they say folks in my community are getting sick, well, let me put this on, because I'm not sure or not. So I wanted to say that I was definitely being very proud of the Brownsville community. They have been wearing their masks. We see other communities, they're not doing anything much. So we're definitely proud of that. And we look forward to seeing you guys for COVID testing. And we're also having a toy drive. We're giving out toys to kids on the 21st right here in our office. For kids 8 and younger, we're doing COVID testing all day. We would love for you guys to come out, get some COVID testing, some gifts for the kids, and just to have a conversation. So come by and see us on Monday from 12 to 6.
Thank you, Tim, so much for joining us, for the work that you do, and for being a visionary and keeping our community safe. It's wonderful to have you here in Brownsville with us. To all of you watching and listening, I will leave you with this Arabian proverb that a friend shared with me many years ago, and it goes something like this: he who has health has hope, and he who has hope has everything. So let's make 2021 the year that we improve our health and build hope together. Wishing everyone a very healthy and happy holiday season. Tim, thanks so much. Thank you, everybody.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.